Hello ladies and gentlemen, participants from Emirates ENBD, Hassan, any other esteemed guests, colleagues that might be in the room, my own colleagues, Charlene and Anil. I trust that you are there to show this video today. My apologies for not being able to attend this session in person. I happen to be in South Africa when you're watching this right now, or as you're watching this, to go and fetch my family to join me here at the end of August. So it was a suggestion and a request that I record this video before the time to share with you the evaluation form on the presentations that we expect you to perform as part of this program. So what I'm going to do, oh, by the way, sorry, my name is Steyn. I'm the Dean at Westford. I'm sure my colleagues may or may not have introduced me, but that is who I am, and I'm very much a part of this training program. My second time that I have the opportunity to do some training for Emirates ENBD, and always a pleasure. The way in which I want to do this is, if you can, in front of you, just take out, you should have two evaluation forms that looks like this. The one would be an evaluation form, and it says evaluation form presentation individual, and then there's another one that looks very similar that says individual evaluation form presentation business. These are what is commonly known as rubrics. So this is what we're going to use to evaluate you when you deliver your presentation and give you a mark from. So this purpose of the video is to explain the rubric and the approach that we have to the evaluation before the time, so that it is clear and transparent to you. Let's focus on the individual one first. There are 5 categories, and they have different marks allocated to them. The first category refers to the use of technology and multimedia, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a presentation just now to give you some more detail of what that entails. The second one would be the structure and the logical flow of the presentation. The third one, delivery, and the last one, creativity. For these categories, the marks allocated are 20%, 30%, 30%, and 20% in that sequence. Now, before I explain the individual rubric in more detail, I just quickly want to reflect on the business one, because they're more or less exactly the same, except the business one has got an additional 2 categories, and therefore also a different mark allocation. The categories that's added in the business one is the content and the knowledge category, and also the sales pitch category. Let's now look at the detail of these categories in terms of the respective criteria. The first one, the use of technology and multimedia. I'm going to give you a bit of an overall guideline insofar as that is concerned, by reflecting to my own PowerPoint presentation that you can see here behind me. The first thing is, when we talk about a PowerPoint presentation, there's a couple of guidelines that I want to give you regarding that. The second one would be to focus on your personal positioning. Where do you stand with respect to the PowerPoint presentation? The third thing would be to reflect on some tools that you might want to use, and then of course ultimately you need to be prepared. So PowerPoint presentation being one aspect of the presentation, and let me say this from the start, the PowerPoint presentation is not the presentation. PowerPoint presentation is there to help and assist you to present whatever you want to present. And therefore your personal positioning, where you stand, is very important. Have a look as I keep on talking while the camera is rolling, and you can possibly notice that it's very, very difficult for you to now follow me in terms of what it is that I'm trying to say, because you're looking at the back of my head. I think you will agree it's much better if I can look at you, make some sort of an eye contact. So when you are going to do a presentation, position the laptop between you and the participants or the audience, so that you can easily reflect and have a look on the screen of the laptop, as opposed to having to do something like this, where you now start talking to the screen and in the process you lose your audience. So personal position, very important. The tools, as much as possible, use some form of an electronic, what we call clicker or pointer, so that you can stand with it in your hand and you can easily move on from the one slide to the other, or if you are on one slide, go through the various animation steps. And then, of course, ladies and gentlemen, very importantly, and probably the most important insofar as a presentation is concerned, is please come prepared. You have to know the presentation almost off by heart. It should be possible for you to, in the middle of the night, do this presentation, if needs be. Don't rely on the slides to remind you of what you're supposed to see, because all you're going to then do is you're going to do this and start to read from the screen because you're nervous and you don't know what you are supposed to say. You have lost that structure and the logic that should be embedded and imprinted in your mind in terms of preparation. So the 4 things to start with. The PowerPoint, but it's not about the PowerPoint, it's about you. Where do I stand? In a position where I can easily maintain eye contact. Use tools, be comfortable with the tools. Don't start to use it on the day of the presentation. Have it before the time. Practice with it. And then the last one is be very prepared. Now, in terms of the categories, let's just look at the PowerPoint presentation, and I want to give you some more general rules of thumb there. The first thing is you work on about a slide per minute, sometimes a slide per 2 minutes. So if you have a 20-minute presentation, typically you're looking at anything between 10 and 15 slides. Don't make the slides too much, otherwise they become cumbersome and you start to rush and try and read and go through all the slides. Rather limit the amount of slides and focus on what I'm doing here, presenting, stating the case. Let the slides in the background be your aid. I normally limit presentations to 5 points per slide. Not long sentences, bullets only. So when we look at that first category, the quality of the PowerPoint, videos, music that you want to use, typically this would be a criteria that we use. No texts, no sentences, no paragraphs, just a short phrase, 2 or 3 words per bullet, something to remind you of what you're supposed to say, something that can highlight the point that you are trying to make. Standardize the font on all the slides. So whether you have 5 slides or 20 slides, make sure that the font is standardized throughout, that the margins is standardized, the spacing between the lines, the type of bullet that you're using, the font for the heading, that things are 100% standardized. I would imagine that at Emirates ENBD you probably have a standard template for something like this, just as similar to what we have at Westford. Insert a page number and a copyright footer on each slide so that people can see whose work this is. If you're going to use a quote or figures or a piece of research in your presentation, be sure to reference the source properly in that presentation or on that specific slide. And then the last thing is use graphs, figures. It's preferred over texts. So give me a picture, talk me through the picture, show me a graph, talk me through the graph. Don't always kill me with text. I'm sure that you have heard of the saying, death by PowerPoint. Don't throw me with thousands of slides. I want to listen to you. You talk, you present. The slides are just your backup. So that's the first one there. The structure and the logical flow. Start the presentation with a table of contents. Make sure that you tell the audience up front, you are about to see this. Now I know what I'm going to see. And as you take me through the presentation and you're ending off the introduction, tell me, this concludes the introduction. Next we will now look at the 5 key points of my presentation, of which the first is the thumb. And as you finish with the thumb, you say to me in the presentation, thank you ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the thumb. Next we will look at the point finger. And so you carry on. Conclusion, introduction, conclusion, introduction, conclusion, introduction. Take me through the presentation step by step. Tell me where you are all the time as you're presenting. That's the structure and the logical flow. The delivery, be professional. Have the correct attire for the day. If it's a bank, if it's a business presentation, suit and tie, work clothing, work attire for the ladies and for the gentlemen. Be professional. Be clear in what you want to say. Don't start to talk like this and then nobody can hear you and then they're wondering what you're doing. Be clear in what you're saying. Stand up straight, face the audience with an open posture and talk to them. Don't talk to the laptop, don't talk to pieces of paper, and don't talk to the screen behind you. So that is what we will look at in terms of the delivery. So in terms of the PowerPoint presentation, just some more tips that I want to give you on that. Make sure that the design is consistent and that the branding is unified. Why is that important? Well, it's going to help you with the structure. It's going to help you with a logical flow. It's also going to help you with professional delivery because you will probably do it on the corporate branding. So that's very important. Check every slide. Make sure there's no grammar errors on that. All of that talks about the delivery and about the professionalism thereof. Standardize the color. Don't at the one point use black and now I use red and now I use green or whatever the case might be. So also in terms of the delivery, as I mentioned before, the personal positioning, using the clicker, making eye contact. Today I'm standing behind a podium for purposes of the presentation. You don't have a full picture of me, but what I normally recommend is don't hide behind a podium. Come out in front of the podium, face the audience, confident, open posture, talking to people, using your hands, using your whole body to deliver that specific presentation. Look at the projector, the lightning. You might want to switch off the projector. Otherwise, you stand in between where the projector is and the screen is behind you, and people find that distracting. If you push B on the keyboard, the projector will go black. Then you can comfortably talk. If you've made your point, you want to continue, you push B again, the slideshow will automatically continue. Make sure that you know how to use these little tools on the day. Don't stand still all the time. Walk around a bit. Don't just stand on one spot like a soldier and now all you're doing is you've rehearsed a poem in terms of a presentation and you're now talking like. Try and create activity in the room. Bring energy in your message and use your body for that. So your hands and other body movements. The dress code I have spoken about already. Creativity is another category that's mentioned there in the rubric. Originality, so when you come forward with ideas or solutions, try and bring some creativity, innovative ideas in there. So that would be the individual presentation. Charlene and Anil can tell you more about the content, and Hassan can also tell you more about the content of what is required in terms of the individual presentation. I briefly want to reflect on the rubric for the business side. There's an additional criteria there, which is content and knowledge. And take note, you can follow me in your own notes there. What becomes important here is the accuracy and the relevance of the content of this program that you're using as you state your business case. That's for the business presentation. Showing that you have a clear understanding of the subject matter. Referencing when it is important. Always, it's important in the presentation for the individual one as well. Whenever I use a secondary source, I have to reference it. On the slide, don't just say it, quote it, let it be shown on the slide. Share some learnings from the program and then integrate the disciplines covered in the program. You are going to do, as I understand it, a business presentation for a business case. Be sure to incorporate the various components and aspects that you tapped on, that you were exposed to in terms of this program. And then the last one there for business presentation would be the sales pitch. I have to be persuasive. Always imagine, if you're going to do a presentation, that you are one of 5, but the CEO can only choose one project. You want to make sure that project is yours. So try and almost present your presentation as a bit of a sales pitch with convincing mannerisms and statements and a PowerPoint presentation to help you in that case. All right, that is it from my side. Once again, my apologies for not being there on this day. I would have loved to attend this training, but I'm sure that it's all going well, and I will see you pretty soon on the second day, I think somewhere in October. Thank you very much.